Hey guys, welcome back. So today we want to talk about, well, the Glock 19 being obsolete part 2, right? So the first one caused quite the controversy, and even though the title was controversial, the point was actually within the video itself, right? But that point, I think, went over many people's heads, because when you insult somebody's personal carry gun, it's like insulting their wife or their child, right? Your child's got a big head, you want to fight, right? So people got pretty upset about the fact that I said this gun's days are numbered in terms of being the ideal carry gun. I never intended to say that these are going away anytime soon. Glocks are going to be here forever. It's just that the trend that this thing started, going from full-size handguns to making a compact handgun very popular for personal everyday carry, this handgun kind of basically set the standard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And that's why I carried one for so long. I mean, there just wasn't anything better on the market. 20 years later, there's better things on the market, right? So, and the point is that carry guns are trending towards getting smaller, right? And some of the comments I saw in the original video is about, but my split times, bruh. It's
split
like
times, duty gun, yada yada.
Right.
We
split
understand.
times and self-defense have nothing to do with each other.
We understand that the larger grip and the weight and everything associated with this is going to be a better handling handgun compared to a smaller handgun, recoil, impulse, etc., etc. We get it.
Things that you're never going to notice when you wind up in a gunfight.
Concealed carry. You wearing your cargo shorts and t-shirt or whatever, walking around a city street with your family. You're not carrying your gun belt with your mags hanging off and your drop leg holster walking around. Well, maybe some people do, but yeah, I mean,
not typically.
Generally consider a concealed handgun, either appendix, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, whatever it is. And that was kind of the Glock 19 obsolete, because there's these new trend of carry guns that was coming out, the P365, the 43X, the 42, 43, whatever you want, Shield Plus, all this stuff. Smaller, but maintaining that higher capacity of almost the fit, because Glock 19 is 15 rounds.
So at one point, I carried a pocketable 380. Talked about it in several videos, and the first one was that little car 380, and that was just tiny. But 9mm handguns started getting smaller too, to the point where the P365, the size and weight difference that it has over that car 380, which is still smaller, isn't significant enough to make me want to carry the car anymore, or would I give up P365 for the car? I guess I would say I would give up the car for the P365, because even though it's a little bit heavier, a little bit bulkier, it's still extremely small, and I get 10 rounds of the flush fit magazine, and I can pocket that. I'm large enough, I can pocket that. Same thing with the car. It was small enough, I could pocket that. But as soon as I got to the 9mm pocketable carry guns, I was like, wow, man, this is getting wild, because they're double stacking them. Sig really set the standard there with the P365. They patented the geometry of their magazine and making that little tiny original P365. That immediately set off the competition looking to build something similar. And this is what Smith and Wesson came up with, was the Shield. Actually, the Shield predates the P365. The P365's claim to fame was being double stacked, right?
So then,
and so
the Plus.
They had the Shield on the market, and so Smith and Wesson responded with the Plus, which is this double stack magazine. But this thing has horrible ergonomics, is just ugly as sin.
That's probably
shoots okay.
Yeah, I've never liked that pistol at all. Nothing about it.
It's just too tall, and your grip's just low on it. It was interesting when it first came out, but again, it was pushing that trend towards smaller carry guns, even when they were single stacks.
Right, because most of those, I want to say the capacity is around 7, 8 rounds. We'll give it. But they were.
Then they had the Mag Guts conversions that they were going around. I think you got up to 10 rounds
or
something
extensions on them, and then you'd be extending the handle longer than the Glock 19. So most folks would go to the Glock 19 because you had 15 rounds, and you know what I mean.
Right.
But now, fast forward, you had the Glock 43. I want to say is the 9mm.
Yep.
And that was a single stack, but it only held like 6 or 7 rounds in it.
Very minimal number
of rounds.
And
they came out with the 43X, which held 10 rounds in a single stack magazine. But then you had a company then come out with a 15-round semi-like double stack magazine. Was it Shield Arms, I want to say? Came out with that. So now you had the Glock 19 capacity in a smaller handgun.
Right. And people have had mixed results with the Shield magazines. I've had really good luck with them. And I'm not typically the most lucky person in the world. So that was interesting, because you know, I don't know. And I have first gen magazines I still run. I don't even try to sort my first gen from my second gen. I would sort them by this magazine no longer works. And I've not thrown any of them out yet. But yeah, so this, I agree. So Glock recognized that trend too. I mean, it's smaller. If you take a look at it next to a 19, it's just smaller all the way around. And then when you put that 15 round shield magazine in it, this gun has the same capacity as this gun. It's smaller, narrower, more carryable. And I think that's the key to these types of handguns. Any handgun that is so big and cumbersome that you debate whether or not to put it on just to run to the grocery store,
I was just going to say that,
is not a good carry gun, because you shouldn't have that debate. Your carry gun should not be, you know, a burden to you. It shouldn't be something that you like, oh man, I don't know, I just got to run up the street. I'm just going to leave it home this time.
Yeah,
it should be something you can just slap in a pocket, slap on really quick, and it doesn't weigh a whole lot. It doesn't push your shirt out a whole lot. It's just something that you can forget you literally have it on.
Yep.
And some people say, well, I feel that way about my Glock 19. Well, I don't. I mean, after carrying these smaller handguns, they are noticeably less burdensome to carry, right? And therefore, you're more likely to carry them. And so Glock noticed that trend. I thought it was interesting. I think it was my friend James Reeves over at the Firearms blog. I think it was him that told me, because I couldn't figure out why Glock didn't do the 15 round magazine. All that requires it is just being sheet metal, right? Because sheet metal is thinner than the polymers that Glock uses in its magazines. And I hope I'm getting the source right, but I believe he said that the reason these are polymer in 10 rounds is because Gaston insists that all Glocks must maintain the polymer magazine. Well, when they do that, they make the magazine thicker, the walls thicker, and you can't get 15 rounds into this no matter how hard you try. So that's how Shield Arms pulled it off, is they just used sheet metal and allowed the rounds to stack out further, and they went from 10 to 15 rounds. It's a pretty significant difference.
Absolutely.
It goes back to me calling Glock a one-trick pony, but I won't
gonna
start
say,
that
so
up again.
It sounds like, though, based on that source and that information, that's going to maintain one-trick pony status for the rest of its life.
Until Gaston passes. This is like Bill Ruger, right? Bill Ruger wouldn't let AR-15s be manufactured by his company. He wouldn't put 30-round magazines in a box with a new rifle. He opposed that, felt you were fine with 10.
Gotcha.
They've just been shotgunning new products out there, which isn't a bad thing. More products, more choices, better for the consumer. So,
But anyway,
but Gaston's not going to let that change. But when you take a look at this handgun, which is the Sig P365 XL, has different texturing on it, has a comp on it, but this is the same size as a standard XL. And you look at it next to the Glock 43, you'll immediately notice that the grip is smaller in diameter, and it's a narrower, smaller grip than what's on the Glock. And the Glock purposely maintains that Glock grip angle where you have to point the muzzle down. But the Sig doesn't. It's a very small looking grip. And what's kind of funny is I used to think the XL looked more balanced because of the long grip. And now it looks like a bit of a pumpkin on a pencil here because the grip looks almost too small.
Might be throwing it off, though. No, because that is the XL slide with the
XL grip frame.
With the P365 barrel. So
right.
Yeah.
So it looks longer than it is tall, and that makes it unbalanced looking. But how it feels and shoots is what's important. And this thing shoots amazing.
And I want to say that then upped you to 12-round magazines. Then you could get like 15-round magazines
that stick out just a little bit, right? So you can put a flush fit 12-rounder plus 13 rounds in the gun, and then put 15 or more. Now we have where is that little guy? The Macro on the market. This little guy just came out, and this is a 17-round magazine. So, and they will fit into the P365s. So you could carry Macro magazines as backups and get 17 rounds, 2 backup magazines, 13 in the gun. You're pretty well armed, and all in a little tiny package here that is still much smaller and narrower and lighter than the Glock 19 of the same capacity.
Right.
Or similar capacity depending on the magazine you run.
And that brings you to that point, and I was just going to say it as well. If that gun is cumbersome for you to put on and carry, this is going to push you to carry your gun more because, again, you don't even really know it's there.
You forget about it.
Exactly.
And that's what you should do. If I'm carrying a 1911, when I do it for nostalgic purposes, you'll see me show up at the shop sometimes rocking the Specialist in 10 millimeter. I love the gun, love the cartridge. But all day long, it's such a heavy all-steel handgun. I'm like tightening my belt, making sure, moving the holster back into place. It's burdensome to carry. It's a lot of weight and a lot of size. So I know that going into it when I carry it for that day. But when I'm carrying my P365 XL, I put it on, and even on outside the waistband holster, which I have on right now from Four Bros right here in Indiana, kind of a cool little holster. But and it has a camel pattern on it, the old Woodland. But yeah, this thing I just forget that it's on, and I remember that it's on there when I go to get ready to take a shower in the evening and take everything off. I'm like, I got to put the gun in the safe, and it's like the perfect size and weight. And you have other companies now obviously getting into the game. So, Sig kind of set the pace with the P365. Then they went a little bit bigger with the XL, and then we got a little bit bigger with the grip and with the macro. But the trend is still smaller. I think what Sig is trying to do is backfill that market for people that just don't want to give up 17 rounds of capacity, right? So the trade-off is a longer grip, and that makes it less concealable. But companies like IWI also want to bite at that pie because they too see that this is the future of guns. This is the new Masada S. The Masada is their full-size 9mm pistol. This is the S, and this is the compact, and it's very much the same size as the P365 XL. Now, it carries one more round than the P365 XL does in its magazine, but it comes slide cut for optics. It has it checks pretty much all the boxes except ambi controls, and then we'll do a video on this gun. But the disassembly on it is something that I don't care for. It's very Rugerish in its design, and we'll try to figure that out in a different video why that may be. But the point being is, the Masada S is now on the market. You have the Hellcat on the market. You have all these guns that are following Sig's path to a smaller double stack 9mm handgun.
Yep, and maintaining a good capacity.
Right.
And maintaining a light, small profile so you're not printing. All sorts of good stuff that you would want in a concealed carry handgun.
Yep. And if you still like your Glock 19, great.
Absolutely.
To me, it's a 2x4. It's thick, but it's still a good carry gun. It's lightweight polymer, frame. I mean, it's not a weight burden as much as it's just bulky. I handle all these other guns on the table, and then I pick up this thing. It feels like I literally picked up a 2x4, and I love them. They're reliable. They're disposable. No pride in ownership. It's a simple tool. You drop it, you're not going to freak out. Most people wouldn't, especially if it's your carry gun. You don't care if it gets beat up. Right. So in that regard, it's still a great carry gun if that's what you want to stick with. If you like duty-sized handguns, but just a little bit smaller, go for it, knock yourself out. But you're doing yourself an injustice if you don't take a look at some of these newer guns coming out, like the Masada S, the P365, or the XL, even the 43. You can upgrade it to 15 rounds if you want to, using Shield magazines and an upgraded mag release. Shield Plus, that's another option. Some people love them. Other people don't care for them that much, but it's an option out there, pretty much a good following. So there's more and more of these products hitting the streets, and it is driving the market more towards smaller, more compact, lighter weapons. So
yeah, I know even during like the pandemic, when we've seen a very large, rise in sales in terms of people buying their first handgun by seeing what's going on, it would be interesting it would lay like a Glock 19 on the table and a 365 and a 43X and these handguns, and most of the folks looking at them would just touch this 19 and be like, it's a little big and beefy. I like the feel of this one, you know what I mean? And they would always go to that smaller, lighter handgun that gave them the capacity they felt comfortable with.
Right.
So it was interesting to see.
It is a market trend. And if we were wrong in the original video that this isn't the future of carry guns, then there wouldn't be as many people out there trying to clamor to get one to the market. Right? This thing just dropped. We got to shoot it at the Primary Arms event down at NRA, and that's where we first were introduced to it. Gun shoots extremely flat. It's a nice shooting little gun.
It is a nice shooting little gun.
It's really interesting. So, again, it's trending towards smaller guns, at least for now. And trends change, right? Yeah. So, I remember when double action, single action pistols were all the rage, and when the Glock showed up, this was the new boy on the block, and it was plastic junk, Euro trash, and all the other things that people would throw at it to insult the gun itself and the people that carried them. But you can't deny it changed the way people looked at carry guns. And Glock stopped innovating about 30 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, and they're just riding on the coattails of their original success of their designs. Meanwhile, other companies are trying new and different things, and now they're becoming the trendsetter. And right now, Sig is the one leading this particular field of pistols. So we'll see what happens next, but I'm going to stick by my assessment that larger, heavier guns like the Glock are going to fall out of favor with a lot of carry people, especially the new carriers. People that have been carrying Glock for 20 years aren't going to stop doing it, right?
No.
It's comfortable to them, and I'm not recommending you do it. I do think you should go out and try one of the smaller guns just to see if you're interested in it, but I'm not saying if you're carrying a Glock 19 you're doing something wrong, or a gun of comparable size. So it's personal preference, but I do think guns are going to trend to being smaller, lighter, and more concealable, and that's undisputable at this point. Somebody's going to dispute it, obviously, in the comment section, but you can't argue with what's actually happening.
No, I couldn't agree more.
All right. Well, guys, we look forward to your comments down below. Even from you Glock guys, if you want to tell us we're stupid and or talk about your split times, we love reading those comments too, because again, it gives us ideas for future videos, so we can address some of the points or concerns or things that you bring up in those comments. So stick down there in the comment section and let us know what you think.
Absolutely.
And we always try to rifle through them and dig through them as much as we can. So anyway, if you guys would like to support us here at the Military Arms Channel, the best possible way to do that is to become part of our Patreon family. There is a link in the video description below. Also, right here on YouTube, you got that little join button underneath the video player you're watching right now. Mash that join button, and you can support us here on YouTube in the age of demonetization. And last but not least, please check out Copper Custom. Thank you for 14 years of support, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Take care, guys.